All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Seated Around the House, a podcast for housing professionals brought to you by the Professional Development Committee of the Southeastern Association of Housing Officers. My name is Wesley Todd, and I will be your host and moderator for today. Today's topic is life beyond the 9 to 5. Is it really a 9 to 5? Establishing boundaries and living your life as a housing professional. Before we begin, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the host and guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the views, positions, or policies of any college, university, employer, or professional association. All discussions are intended for general information, education, and dialogue. No podcast content should be considered official communication or policy guidance from any institution. Any examples discussed have been generalized, de-identified, or fictionalized to protect privacy. Participation in this podcast is voluntary, and the host reserves the right to edit recordings for clarity, privacy, and legal compliance. So, with that being said, hello, everybody. No, this is not an episode of Charlie's Angels featuring Bosley. It is a wonderful group of colleagues that I get to work with through CEHO and know through various means by which. So at this point, I'm going to allow the introductions to begin, and I feel it most appropriate that I kick it to Dr. Carter Atkins, as she is just right down the hallway from me. So Stephanie, if you would
Yeah,
not mind, get us started.
I appreciate it, Wesley. Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie Carter Atkins. I'm the Executive Director of Residence Life and Housing here at Wake Forest University. I've been at Wake since 2017. Love it here in Winston-Salem. I have the pleasure, I guess I can say that, right, of working with Wesley Todd just down the hallway, as he mentioned. It's a great place. It's a great place here at Wake. So excited to be here. I have been involved with CEHO for quite some time. Was on the presidential trio, all the great things that come. I'm also now involved with the Kuhawai. Hopefully, folks will be at Campus Home Live next week or whenever this airs, right? At this point in Orlando. So excited to be a part of this podcast. And I can throw it to Bree if that's what you want me to do. Let's do that. Awesome.
Hey everybody, my name is Bree Gates. I'm the Associate Director of Residential Experience at the University of Mississippi. I've been here in this role for going on 4 years. I've been at the university since 2015 in various roles. So um, love the work we get to do, and I'm excited about this topic and getting to share some just fun quips with everyone. So excited to get this started. Let's see, I have connections to both of the remaining people, so I'll kick it to Callie.
Thanks, Bree. I am Callie Wallen. I am the Director for Housing and Residence Life at Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky. I've been in this particular role since fall 24. Worked for Transy for a year before as Assistant Director, Kentucky Girl Proud, all of that fun stuff. I have been involved in CEHO as a member of the programming committee for the last few years. I was a program review subcommittee co-chair for a couple of years. A lot of different pieces of that. I love just giving back to an organization that gives me so much. And then our last member for today is Miss Taylor.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Maroney. I am an assistant director for residence life at Christopher Newport University in Newport News, Virginia. I got involved with CEHO as a grad student. I did my grad work at the University of South Carolina, and am a Relay alum, and that's how I know Bree and Wesley. So happy to be here.
Well, thank y'all so much. And for those listening, I may or may not have pulled in several of these people in the 11th hour. So, on a personal note, thank you very much for making this happen. Fun fact on this, because there will be some humor in this, if I had to guess, as we get through this hour. Stephanie may be my boss's boss, but I am Stephanie's landlord. If you would like to know more about that, please email me. And I'm not hard to find on social media. I would love to tell you about that dynamic and what it means to be your supervisor's landlord. And with that being said, pow, 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 pow. Hold on, let me put these away. We're on a campus. I'm not allowed to have those. So, all right. Well, very prominent topic, and I'm excited to get to do this with this group as well. You know, for those that are just scrolling through Spotify or YouTube on a random day and are like, who are these people? So a lot of our work, we work in residence life and housing at a university. And yes, we do show up to an office. I assume we do, wherever we are in the country. Things are different in Mississippi, but I don't want to presume anything. So Bree can maybe touch on that later. Um, but a lot of our work takes place in the residence halls, and anybody that's been to college or watched a movie around college knows that things do not happen always during the business hours. So, bringing in these seasoned professionals, be able to talk about that, very excited for. So, I want to get us kicked off, and I'm going to start with Taylor to begin. Taylor, I'm telling you now, so I don't say it after the question. See, oh my gosh. So, Taylor, if you could start by kind of discussing how do you approach setting boundaries when you are not at work? So, when you're not in that 8 to 5, when you have walked away from that, yet forces try to pull you into your role when the situation doesn't really require it.
Thank you for the warning. I do appreciate that. Um, yeah, I would say a lot of that boundary setting starts off as soon as I start to know who I'm supervising. So at CNU, we have residential fellows, so recent CNU graduates that fulfill our live-in positions. So we actually just brought in a new cohort of fellows 2 weeks ago. So one of those boundary setting periods was right when they started, where I'm like, hey y'all, I'm here to help you. I want to help you, but also realize that we have supports throughout the like 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. system. So make sure to use the supports built in. Go ahead and call the central office or the next step up if you need help. And then throughout the semester, just kind of directing them that way if it's something that I don't necessarily need to respond to immediately. And then encouraging them to do that with their staffs as well is super important.
Thank you, Taylor. You touch on something, and I'm sure we'll hear from others. I think when people get comfortable with you, you are their person, and that transcends like everywhere from student to parent to faculty to people across the street. But really communicating again and again, there is an established structure that is here for you. It may not be Wesley Todd, and who doesn't love Wesley Todd? But there are other people that could do as much. So, speaking of loving Wesley Todd, Stephanie, if you could provide your
Yeah, I was
input on
gonna
that question.
yeah, I was gonna jump in because I think, obviously Taylor kind of mentioned this from like the supervisory lens too, but like even like her supervisor, right? I'm sorry about kind of she, her, I'm not sure, but all the things, right? Just looking at it from that standpoint, from a supervisor is you have to make sure these like boundaries are there too, right? So like I absolutely want my staff on all levels to utilize the system we have in place, just like they mentioned. So it is not about yes, we all know Wesley will pick up the phone when we call, but is there a reason to call him? Now, if this is a facilities thing, absolutely want you to be up to date of what's going on. But again, we still have a system in place of things that are happening. So I want folks to know that, from the seat that I sit in as executive director, like I want people to utilize the methods we have in place. I think one of the things we know about this field is burnout. It doesn't take long, right, to get burnt out in this work. And the on-call system doesn't help with that because someone is always on call. There's always something happening when you're on call. One of the struggles that we're having here that our staff kind of complain about is sometimes we get phone calls from the police just to let us know things that happened hours before. Can't do anything with this information right now, but here we are receiving it. So that like just contributes to some of the struggles, I think, sometimes as we try to figure out how we can make, again, the work we want to do a place that people want to come and work, because we all know the pipeline to do this, to be in residence type of housing is kind of drying up. Folks are not wanting to do this work, and we actually need to invigorate it. So how are we making sure the things that are there that might be deterring people from doing this work just aren't as bad? We know you got to be on call. We know this thing happens, but how do we make sure it's not perhaps as bad as maybe it could be? How do we make sure that we have a system in place that everyone understands and utilizes it? And you can live your life after 5 o'clock like we actually want you to. Like to me, that's important. Like whether you got a family or not, you got yourself, right? To go live your life after 5 o'clock and essentially forget about this place. You come back to work the next day or Monday or whatever it is. So to me, that's important.
Who you
What you
kicking it
laughing
to,
about,
Stephanie?
Wesley?
No,
Huh?
I'm not. I'm not. I'll save my comments for later. This is not the Wesley show. It is the seated around the house. Stephanie, who do you kick it to next?
Let's see, Bree, what you got to say about all of this?
Um, it's a hard question, right? Because I think so many of us are conditioned to answer that phone whenever it rings, right? Like, um, I uh I am married. My husband and I have been married for 18 years, which doesn't feel possible, but it is. And we came up through the system together. We were RAs together. We were graduate students together. We were hall directors together. And then he broke out of housing. And so he goes to sleep and turns his phone off. And I'm like, what if someone died? And he's now started sleeping through duty calls, right? And so it's wild that to think that there are humans out in the world who don't have this leash to their phones. Um, but I think, Stephanie, I think one of the things that you said is, how are we making this more tenable for our staff? Not only our staff coming in, but like I'm a huge fan of just because I did it doesn't mean that you should have to. And 9 times out of 10, if I did it, I'm gonna try to figure out a way that you do not have to do that. Like let's not, create generational trauma in duty in the workplace, right? Um, and so one of the things that we did that we've seen a lot of success with, and this is less about my personal boundaries, but in just helping my staff figure out how they can have some boundaries, we invested in duty phones for our people who are on duty. So they rotate the phone and that sort of thing, but they're all iPhones, and we did that intentionally because instead of getting a phone call from an RA saying there's a flood in the building and them having to like wake up, get dressed, leave their apartments, go over to this other building, they can say, hit me up on FaceTime. And they can go like lay in their beds and be looking at this flood to decide if they actually need to go take care of something or if they can just call maintenance after hours and say, hey, there's a little stream of water. They've got a bucket underneath it. Like, what do you think? And so that saves them an hour, of like instead of having to get up and do all that, they can answer the call, do what they need to do, and roll over and go back to sleep. And so we've gotten really great reviews from that. And I think it's something that it felt like an act of Congress to get these iPhones approved and have those paid for and that sort of thing. But once we did it, it was totally worth it. And so I think, that's all part of just trying to figure out how do we make a situation that we know is not awesome a little more awesome than it was.
All right. And last but certainly not least, to round out this first question, Callie, please.
I would echo everything that has already been said. I think for me, one of the important things is just having those around me in the workplace, knowing also kind of at least the general scope of what's going on with me outside of work, so that they have the understanding and appreciation of, yes, she is great at her job, or yes, this is something she needs to know about. And also, her spouse is on a traveling recruitment trip and she's got her 2-year-old at home and is doing X, Y, and Z. So, no, let's maybe not call her first. Let's go see if there's somebody else that we can call. Or just sharing what those priorities and what that scope of my free time looks like to my supervisors, to the team that I supervise, so that they can understand the ebb and flow of the seasons of the things that we do. With When it comes to like duty calls and things like that, we are very fortunate to be so small that most of those are going to go through our public safety office first, and then they route things to us. So if you are small enough to do something like that, beautiful, because that honestly takes away so much of that stress from being on call. Of, I am not necessarily the one having to decide if we call emergency maintenance. That's our Department of Public Safety. Um, and that helps for us just limit the amount of calls up that our student life staff end up getting. Um, the office itself here in our work culture is very family first. And it's something that, like, when I was looking for my next step in my career, was something that I was really valuing. Of, I want a place that I can have a life outside of the office, that I can focus on my personal goals in addition to everything that I want to get out of being a professional. But for me, a lot of it just comes back to making it common practice that I will share about my personal life with you in as appropriate way as I can, um, while also making sure that like I want the people around me to know that I'm going to care about what they've got going on as well. I don't want to call you after hours. I don't want you to want to call me after hours, unless we're doing something social and it is all voluntary and everybody's on the same page about why we're there. Um, I think part of it too comes just with helping to promote the critical thinking on everybody else's part of, is this really something that you need my opinion on? It's building up that confidence in others to make those decisions, to make that call of what to do, and not necessarily make the call to me to tell you what to do, um, so that they're getting those transferable skills for whatever they're on to next.
And I love that point that you just made, right? Of just reminding staff that like you know this. I know sometimes obviously there, maybe newer professionals or folks who are just kind of getting in the on-call, but you know this, we have resources, we have binder, we got all the things you need that probably gives you the answer. So I want you to feel comfortable and confident in making the call and doing the thing that needs to be done. And again, whether if you need to contact that next level, like it's because you have all the things have been worked through and it still does not whatever doesn't work or there needs to be someone else, it just needs to be elevated, but you feel confident in giving the answer that needs to be done to kind of hopefully figure out the issue at that point and be done with it. I love you saying that.
And maybe you have peers within your role that you can lean on, of like
Yeah.
other people who have gone through it, or somebody who has a year's more worth experience than you, or somebody on staff that like you look up to, that you can lean on, whether it's somebody in an RA, a senior RA position, if it's that graduate staff member, looking up to one of their full-time professional peers. Just there are other resources than me, like you all have said, and I want you to know that you can use them, because we have also given them the same training, the same resources, the same everything. So you should never feel like you are truly alone in having to make those decisions. I also should not feel like I am always the one helping you make that call.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Callie, I really appreciate what you said about the critical thinking. I think, especially for the OGs on this call that come from a different era of we were trained that when that phone rings, you react and you do something in that immediacy. And where it used to go to, you have to be present to solve the problem. There has been a change in my career that yes, presence matters, but resources matter as much, and there is a difference between being present and then being present to affect change, right? And I really appreciate what you said about that critical thinking, because I think some of us are just trained to respond and react when in reality we need to. Back in my old days before I came to Wake Forest, I used the DMX: stop, drop, and then. But that's what it takes. You have to evaluate in those moments. So thankful that you brought that up. So, Bree, I'm going to let you get us started on this next topic. When the situation does require you to present yourself in the role after hours, or as I like to call it, you have to put the cape on. You got to go be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, pick your Avenger, whatever. How do you reclaim that time and recharge? Because of course, this never happens right when we leave or right before. It's at 3:30 in the morning and it's pitch black and it's raining and it's cold. So, how do you recharge and reclaim that time when those things happen?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it depends on the call, right? Like every call is not requiring me to get out of bed and drive to campus and, all of that sort of thing. Like sometimes it's a quick, hey, this happened. I'm gonna send you a text about it so you can send it on to your director. We go about our business, right? Like, so I stay awake long enough to get that text. I copy paste, hit send to my director, and I'm back asleep in 5 minutes. We don't sweat those things. When, it's that 3 a.m. call and, there's been an extreme emergency with a student or, something that does require me to leave my house. Those are times where I'll say, uh, hey, supervisor, this happened overnight. You're aware of it, obviously. I'm gonna go home and catch some Z's real quick. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm gonna prepare myself for whatever happens the rest of this day, but I'm not gonna be in right at 8 o'clock. And I think, just luckily in our department, that's okay. There are other people who can be here at 8 a.m. to handle those things, or, 9 times out of 10, between 8 and 5, there's not an emergency that there's not somebody else around that can handle it, right? Um, there are some times where, you know, even if it's not that 3 a.m. call, I have a 4-year-old. And so if it's, and as a working mom, the time that we have together during the week is extremely limited, right? And so I've told my staff, if it's between 5 o'clock and 8:30, hopefully when we get her to bed, if it's not an extreme emergency, send me a text about it and I'll get to it once she's asleep. Um, and that just kind of helps protect some of that time because there's no way to reclaim time with a 4-year-old who doesn't understand mommy needs to take this phone call because I gotta work. And so if we can on the front end, we just try to protect that time in general. Weekends are a little different because, we're with her 24/7. And so that's, for me to step out and take a 10-minute phone call, like it's fine. I can, color something here, play with the magnets on the fridge, like everything will be okay. Um, but, it's really just about kind of prioritizing those calls and like what those look like and what the actual response is needed. If I can send a text and answer that in the first 3 minutes, we're all good. If I'm gonna have to, spend a significant amount of time either losing sleep or away from something I'm doing, then we're gonna probably I'm gonna need to flex some of that time back in to my personal life.
Yeah, like again, speaking from the lens that I sit in as an executive director, to me, I think what Bree was mentioned too is about the culture, right? So the culture of the office, the culture of what that looks like for the staff that are on call, because that job is not created like everything else that other folks do in the space. So yeah, to me, when you're on call, whether you're dealing with things or not, like just being on call does something to your system, right? Or whatever that looks like. So yeah, like you do need to figure out what that's going to look like from I'm going to take a day or two here or do something to kind of reset on the back end. And to me, that's perfectly fine because again, I've been in that space. I recognize it. I'm still on call. We're off. We do all these things and I understand what just comes with it, period. So the culture, at least in our space, right, from a top down is I do want you to take that time. I want you to reset. It is not a comparison as a thief of joy from other folks in the office who aren't in that space to say, well, why does Wesley get to take a day here or do whatever? Like, listen, if you want to jump in this on-call system, I promise you got room. We got a training system, so we will do all the things to make you feel really welcomed. But I also realize you don't want that. So, right, like, and there are other ways for the other staff to when they do things and get their time back too, that all things just they may not equal out in the wash, but I want people to feel as though you can take your time. There are weekends we have to work, depending on the time of year. So I want people to come on in with a smile on their face, do all the things, and take your time when we get out of this less hectic season to feel as though I do appreciate your time as best I can. So to me, it's a culture issue too, and just making sure that
It,
that's a part of it.
and Stephanie, you make a good point. And I think, something a mentor told me recently, sometimes you have to be the catalyst or create your own culture for that culture to begin, right?
Yeah.
Like you teach people how to treat you
Hmm.
in all aspects of it. And it took me, I'm hard headed. It took me a while to really understand that and really say, if I don't create boundaries for myself, I can't expect somebody to do it for me.
Hmm.
Right. And in this work, and I'm sure we've all known people for the word that I think is a martyr that said, well, I did this and I came in and it's like, but not everybody's the same. Not every situation's the same. Only you know what you need best in a situation. And all of us know everything from student crisis to facility, it impacts you differently. And not just what you wear or what you carry when you get called in, but some of that stuff weighs on you for days, if not weeks after that. So
Yeah.
coming to your space and realizing what you need and, creating that culture for yourself.
Yeah.
So
And listen, I love our work, and it is probably one of the most important jobs on a university campus. But we also do not have the secret launch codes, right? Like, we are not the
mhm.
people who are making, like, everything does not revolve around us. So when you need to say, hey, I do need this time, or I do need to do whatever, like, absolutely. I need you to advocate for yourself. And also, this just needs to be a part of the culture of the work that we're doing. Again, burnout happens really, really quick where you live where you work, or just are on call, what feels like 24/7 sometimes. So how are we making sure that people still feel human in the midst of the work that we are doing? And we can control that pretty easily because again, there's someone else who is going to be here, who is going to answer the call that comes into the front office, whatever that looks like. So the work will still get done, but I need you to feel like a human being when you walk into the space and just not someone else who continues to get things dumped on them. And then again, you don't want to be here. That doesn't help me.
Taylor, Callie, what would you like to contribute to this? Taylor was like, yes, I got things.
No, I just really like that point, talking about like the work will still get done and remembering to save yourself for when there are those like actual emergencies you have to respond to. I know. Here's an example, closing. A bunch of us just finished closing, and so maybe getting through damages on a certain timeline, as well as prepping for upcoming trainings, orientation, depending on your involvement and your campus size. But remember, like, there are things that are more flexible than others. So if you're feeling kind of like under the wire, under that pressure, take a second, talk to your supervisor, friend, whoever you need to, see if a deadline can be pushed or reorganized so that you can find like little pockets of time for yourself and not just like making everything feel like it's that emergency when it's not, which I think also talks to that culture piece. Like culture is so important. And how are you setting up positive culture in your own spaces as well?
At my last institution, when you served on call from the coordinator role, you got a flex day that you had to use within the next 2 weeks. And that way you were able to have that built in time. It was that culture of expectation of like everybody's going to get this. As you move up that phone chain, though, you get less calls, so you're typically less overall drained from how often the phone might be ringing. So that might be a perk that goes away. In cases like that, I think part of it is everything that, again, you all have already said of building in your own flex time where you can, if that means coming in late or taking an early afternoon one day. But then also understanding that, again, it's all seasonal. So what season of the year are we in? Do we know that after hour calls are going to be higher because maybe it's homecoming weekend, or maybe it's recruitment season, or maybe for us it's Halloween, maybe it's raft week. So like what are your institutional traditions that you see year after year? We're going to get more calls during this. Part of it is also just going to be like, what do you need? Because for some people it might not be taking time back. For some, it might be that being on call while draining is also the refilling thing because they like being able to wear that cape. As far as doing the recharge, part of it for me is also going to be like getting that physical separation of something. So if I am at home with my family, I'm going to probably physically leave that conversation or that location, go take the phone call, do what I have to do so that I can then have the mental gap in between doing everything for work and then transitioning and coming back to family. I had a coworker who her method was when she was on call, she would keep her shoes on whenever she was at home. She wouldn't take them off because that was her physical signal that she was still in work mode. And then when she wasn't on call, that was the first thing she would do when she would get home is take her shoes off because that was her note to herself of like, all right, let's start transitioning out of this mentality and get into our personal recharge state. And I'm sure that when she was on and got anything that she needed to afterwards, waking up at 3 a.m., probably put those shoes back on just so that she could be in as mental of that state as possible. So it's just going to be trial and error of what works for you. It's going to lean on that good communication, having people understand and setting up everything from the beginning so that you can stay successful. And then when things don't go well, being okay with having to troubleshoot, where do we go from here? Because there are going to be things that pop up that maybe you didn't handle the best or were way more draining on you than you initially thought. And as time goes on and you do have to process that using all of the resources that you have at your disposal as well. So looking into what are the employee benefits you have at your location? Is there, is it that whatever you went through and experienced is something that you might want to go to therapy for? Is it something that you need to debrief on a deeper level? Is it that you just need to call up your friends and have a little venting session for people who understand what it is that we deal with?
That's I really like that last part. And I think about the commonality this entire group has is rely. Um, there's such a there's such a comfort being able to call somebody that knows what you do and they have no affiliation with your employer or that because and yes, my supervisor is on this. I don't call
What
just
you
to
be
say,
telling
oh,
folks, Wesley? No,
don't
I'm
worry
joking.
about that is my personal. Anyways, but y'all get what I'm saying, right? There is a certain level where you can know that you're going to have a place of empathy, but also you're going to have people that are going to keep it real with you and say, well, I hear this, but what it sounds like, there's a lot of comfort with that. So thank you for sharing. I'm actually very excited about this next prompt because I look at this group and I've met some of y'all's partners and I've heard your stories and some came up with like Bree said, married 18 years. By the way, awesome on
I
that.
know, right?
Your marriage can vote. Very nice. Mine is about to get their learner's permit. Um, so, how have you explained your role and how it goes beyond the 9 to 5 to family, friends, etc.? And how does it and how does those instances that we've talked about impact those people? And just to kind of kick it up, my dad, when I first told him this was the job I was doing, I went to school to be a broadcaster. If y'all can believe it, I wanted to be in the limelight, be on TV. I know it's hard, it's difficult to accept that. But I told my dad this is what I was going to do. And he's like, oh, so you're going to be a dorm daddy. You're going to
No.
be daddy. And I'm like, first of all, I don't like the way that sounds. Ew. Um, but they really did not understand. Like when they would come to visit, like, well, everybody's got to eat. But I'm like, Dad, it's August. We have RA training. So you kind of have to, if people that have not come through this, you have to introduce them to the culture. Like my wife currently loves it. She's like, just answer the phone before the third ring so it doesn't wake me up. Remember what you do at work affects me too because of where we live. Go get that bread, honey. So I'm going to kick that up. And we will start with Callie this time. Callie, go ahead.
No, I'm really glad that this is one of the questions because this is actually something that my husband and I struggled with for a good while. Our 5th year anniversary is actually this Friday. Um, thank you. But like when I'm at work, I try to be as much in that work mentality as I can, and sometimes that means things are going to pop up at 4:30 when the office closes at 5, and it's going to take a little bit longer, or I'm not going to be at home right on time every single day of the week. Um, and if I take the time to text you about it, that's going to get me mentally out of the space that I'm in to do the thing. So it's going to end up taking me longer to get home. So what's the ultimate goal? Do you want me to talk to you or do you want me to get home on time? And just talking through what our expectations of each other were, what our understandings of the role were. And with all of that, had started a coordinator role while he was still an undergrad. And so the life places that we were at were just really different. And I think that probably led to some of that as well. Where we're at now, he has to do a lot more after hours or around the clock as well. He is having to do recruitment trips or talking with some of the students from his classes about all things all the time. And I think he just understands it better now that people will need you outside of your typical 9 to 5. And like Wesley said, like you might be that person's level of comfort, or they might look up to you for something, or want your advice about something because they value your perspective. And I think the more that he's experienced that over the last year, the more he has gained that understanding of like, oh, this is probably what Callie has been dealing with for the last 5 years. With family, it has meant that sometimes I can't go to the extended family Christmas, or no, I can't stay on the phone right now, Mom. I'm getting another phone call for something that might be an emergency. It might not. So I might call you back. I might not. Talk to you later. Love you. Bye. And just being able to set it up where it's okay that I'm not always there. I'll be there as much as I possibly can be. And if I can't be at Christmas this year, then maybe I'm hosting Christmas next year and everybody gets more of my time that way. hosting Thanksgiving was one of my ways to kind of do that over the last few years, having everybody come to us instead of trying to go to everybody else, so that I could also potentially be on call for Thanksgiving and not let other staff members be stuck where we're at, especially having been a live-in or a live-on staff member. That was kind of one of my ways to play the system, but also give back to the staff that I work with, in a way that worked best for me. I think with that too, staying on top of the planning ahead with everything, knowing, when we do our duty scheduling as student life staff, we calendar out the whole semester and just mark whatever weeks we can potentially do. So that those are the only ones we would potentially get scheduled for. And then somebody looks at all of that and picks for us. So we don't have to actually go through and fight. We're just like, here's when I am available and can do it. And then understanding that things are going to pop up. If I need to cover the phone for somebody for a weekend, I'll happily do that if that means that I can get them to cover something for me and I can go do something else that day. We've had that happen. With coworkers whose kids are doing, like a college orientation, or they have a concert that they want to go to and they need to not hold the phone for a few hours, or planning out like parental leave, knowing that these are things that are going to be affected by all of that. And if we can plan ahead and work around the schedule, then it won't be a headache for anybody. At the end of the day, it won't be something that we potentially resent each other for, because we have each other's best interests at heart. No matter what happens, we're here not just for the students that we serve, but for each other, because we couldn't do it without each other.
Dude, my question is always, why does everybody want to plan things in August? Like
Yeah.
literally yesterday, my husband was like, "Oh yeah, we're trying to do this family thing in August." I'm like, "Sir, August?" Like,
Or early December, because they
yeah.
don't want to do it around Christmas because everybody else is traveling. It's like, well, if you do that, you do realize all universities have to close sometime, right?
Good grief. So, yeah.
I think the August piece was the hardest to explain because my dad's birthday is in August.
Mm.
Um, and so when I was living in South Carolina, it was move-in season. So there was like no way I was gonna make a 6, 7 hour drive home. So I FaceTimed in for his 60th birthday a few years ago, and he was like, "Oh, thanks." Just like sweating because I've been out in the heat. It was great. But also, thanks for all of the little relationship tips. I'm taking notes right now, because I am currently planning a wedding, so that's fun. Thank you. Um, but my fiance is also in housing, also serves on call. That is how we met, so he understands that more so, but it was definitely like balancing multiple schedules. If you have a partner or a significant other, highly recommend a shared calendar because that has saved our lives, in all honesty. So now we know exactly when we're on call, when like we're working late. So like those move-in seasons, RA training, when staff meetings are, has been super, super helpful on those like understanding that we may have later nights at different periods of time, which to be honest, can be annoying. And it's okay to be a little annoyed, but also you have to be understanding in the sense that these are our roles and these are our jobs. The family piece has been definitely harder. I think it took about 2 or 3 years for my dad to understand that I wasn't an RA, and I think some of my family still thinks I'm an RA, which is real fun. Um, but the holidays piece is always difficult and trying to navigate that for sure. Um, Thanksgiving was always the hard one of like, are you coming up for Thanksgiving? No, I'm on call. Um, sorry. And then like trying to also explain like why I can't just be on call and 6 hours away at the same time, how that just like doesn't work. Um, but I think they've learned. I also think they're very grateful that I am now back home because my current institution is in my hometown. So they're very excited about that.
So like I said, my husband and I grew up doing this job together, right? So like he totally gets it and understands it. And there are some times where if I'm in the middle of something, if it's bath time for my daughter, or, something else is going on and I'm in the middle of that and cannot extricate myself. Like he has answered my phone and said, "Okay, what's the problem?" And he can troubleshoot, right? Like if it's something that he's listened to me have these phone calls for 18 years. And so if he can answer the question, he will.
Absolutely.
Or he'll say, "Hey, hold on just a second. Hey, Bree, this is what's going on," and I'll be like, "Yeah, da, da." And so he's good, and so my staff knows that. They know Kevin. He's not a stranger to this department. And
He's
so
not some AI on your phone that just pops up when you don't.
right, yeah.
Kevin
So I mean,
here.
that's
How can
really
I
nice.
assist?
Yeah, I think for me, and my family understands it fairly well. Their hardest like I think when we first started grad school, my parents came to visit, and of course we're living in, right? And we had 6 fire alarms the first night they were there. And I was like, "Well, welcome to res life. This is your trial by fire." And so mom was like, "Does this happen all the time?" And I'm like, some days, it does, but um, I think the hardest part for the family has been that there are some weekends that I'm not going to be able to make every birthday party. I'm not going to be able to. We can't have, my work starts middle of July, and they're like, but school doesn't start until August. I understand that, but all of the humans that run the school and housing, we have to teach them how to do their jobs.
Mhm.
That starts before that. I can't wait until move-in day to train my staff on how to handle all of this stuff. And so I think that, understanding that kind of my pockets of availability look very different than a normal like K through 12 teacher might look, or, just somebody who's used to that more, traditional academic year calendar. And so, I think they also understand that we're just, like several of you have said, we're not going to make every birthday. We're not going to make every single, baptism or confirmation or, kindergarten graduation or, preschool graduate. Like there are just going to be some things that we're going to send a present and a card and say, we love you guys so much and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, that sort of thing. And so, um, and that can be hard because we also, I think higher ed often takes us away from our families and from, and so we have to build our own village. And so it's kind of like, oh, this is very different than, how generations of humans have lived. And so, just getting your family kind of used to that takes some time. When you're, especially, and then you're adding an on-call and responsibilities like that, like, even when I am here, so for me, I'm on duty 24/7, 365. Like that is my life. And so even if I am home for Christmas, like I may have to step out and take a phone call while we're opening presents because there's always students on campus. And so luckily in our department we have staff who are in town and available. So like I have the ability to be on call and 4.5 hours away because I have a coworker that lives in Oxford and her whole family lives in Oxford and generations of her family live in Oxford. So she's not going anywhere, right? But like she can respond if response from our level is necessary. And so that's, also really helpful and allows me to say to my staff, because we have that, you can also take your duty phone 2 to 3 hours away and it will be okay.
I'm really, and I'm speaking very genuinely. I am loving this group and all these conversations. And for those that know me, as much as I clown around and joke, I am a stickler for time. Well, no, this group knows that very well. So if we were at a NASCAR event, we have sat through the first, let's say it's a 600, we are at about 575 laps right now. So now's when you wake up, you go to the bathroom because the race is going to get interesting because we've got 10, no, we got 11 minutes. And we have 3 prompts. I definitely want to get through 2 because the last one can actually be a podcast on its own. All right, so let's strap in our seatbelts. We're going to crack our neck a little bit, and we're going to win this race right now. So, I think something Dr. Carter Atkins does really well, and she models it very well. Follow her on Instagram; she'll tell you all about it in her own words, making your time, and that is truly something that I do appreciate, is reclaiming that and making it your own. So talk about space that you make that you are able to balance your hobbies and interests outside of the job. And real quick to kind of prompt and then I'll call Stephanie well, this group knows I love to travel. As we used to say, that I love to be in these streets. Um, and I do. I love to see new places. I like to go home to Texas. I love to hike. I love to be in the wilderness without community. That is honestly what recharges me and makes me my best self. So when I come back to the 9 to 5 and beyond, that is what gives me that push to do it. So hearing that, let's start with Taylor. Talk about how do you carve out those times to do the things that are tailored, that are not necessarily your work identity.
Yeah. For me personally, one of the best things that ever happened for me was to take that live off position because I now have a 45-minute commute, which is my favorite time of the day. Um, which is where I get to decompress, listen to music, call all the friends that I probably haven't spoken to during the day or maybe the last few weeks because life lives. So that is a huge piece for me. I think it's also just reserving pieces of time. So like every Tuesday night for the last, I don't know, probably since grad school, so the last like 3, 4 years now, I played D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, for those who may not know, every Tuesday night and have almost every Tuesday for the last 4 years. That is time that I try very, very hard to hold on to. And so if that means like, hey, I may ask if we can move a meeting because my current institution, our staff meetings are currently on Tuesday nights. So if I'm being asked to be at that, hey, is there any way we can push that up? Or I talk to my D&D group and be like, hey, I'm going to be an hour late because that is my reconnect like time with some really good friends and
Mm.
something I'm really
I never
passionate
knew you
about.
were a D&D girly. You learn something new every day. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Taylor Maroney.
But yeah, so that's like one of the things I try to prioritize as much as possible because it's one thing I look forward to outside of work every week. So I'm gonna
I'm bringing
pass.
my deck to the next CHO. I hadn't
I didn't
played in a
even know it was
while.
still around. Like that,
Oh, it's strong.
I honestly,
I
I'm
It's
think
shocked.
it's
strong.
like
Like,
gotten more big too, like ever since
really?
Stranger
Yes.
Things. Yeah, I think
Oh,
Stranger
okay.
Things
All
brought it
right.
to life. Like,
That tracks then. Okay. Yeah.
Popcorn, y'all. Come on, we're lapping at this point. Talladega,
I'll
baby.
Yeah, right. So I'll say I go to the gym typically after work. Like I'm a 5:30 p.m. CrossFit person. So to
Typically,
me,
come on now.
I know, right? And like, yeah, right. Every day is a thing. So, but I started that habit back when I was at a previous institution in the state of Georgia is when I found CrossFit. And to me, it's because I realized I had like horrible work-life balance or whatever, integration, whatever kind of keyword you want to put in there. But all I was doing was working. And I had my sons. I was a single mom for a while I lived in Georgia. And I was like, there's got to be something different because I felt like I was working all the time. Then I'd go pick him up from daycare. And then I'd come home and do like a few things. And then I felt like I was essentially back at work or there just wasn't a lot of time on the back end. So I found a Groupon for a CrossFit gym that I went to. And it really just opened up something because I went to the evening after work class too. So there was always a hard cutoff. I had to leave at 5 o'clock, right? Because I had to go pick up the kid. I had to get to the gym for the 5:30 class. And that tradition is just kind of kept. And to me, like that's my time, right? So I know I'm going to do that. And I always tell people like the one thing you can't be concerned about is all the other things going on when you're lifting heavy weights or like doing burpees or doing some other nonsense that we get to do in CrossFit, which I love because you got to be focused on what's in front of you. And that's important. So like the working out piece has always been, again, like one of those boundaries that's important to me. And it's obviously now when I'm home, my son's older. He'll be 16 on the 22nd of this month. So, life looks a little bit different, but I have a husband at home now. So all these other things that are also, what you want to say, Wesley Todd? I see you.
Oh my gosh. Finish your thought, please,
No, but I'm
ma'am.
saying these boundaries are the things that to me are important to like show up as who I am, and be able to, again, do this work to the best of my ability. And I really do. Even if I don't, I should be a whole lot better about truly taking PTO and like doing things. But I really do want that for my team. Like I want folks to take their time and do their thing while, and just enjoy who you are as a human being because life happens really fast, right? And life is also too short. Right. To not be happy, to not be all the things, to be able to take care of yourself. And I don't know. I mean, I've worked at other places where you get paid out for your time when you leave, but that doesn't happen here at Wake. So your time is worth more to you to take it than to save it up and be like, they're going to pay me when I leave because they're not going to do that. So take your time and go do the things that you need to do. So to me, that's really important to be able to do so. And I'm perfectly fine taking PTO and just literally be in my house because I just want to exist as a human being and not have to do anything else. And sometimes do laundry during the week because then I feel like I actually have a weekend. Like, I do think that was one of the best times of COVID. No one asked this. But when we were working from home, I was like, oh, we can like cook early and I can do laundry like on a Wednesday. And I'm still logging on this computer and doing the work. Like, to me, that was a different level of balance. It just felt really good. So when I can take a random time off here or have a early afternoon or do something that lets me do the weekend things during the week, then I feel like, ooh, I can
Yeah.
relax.
And the reason I'm laughing, it goes back to the whole landlord thing. I've seen how she lives, y'all. That's between she and I.
I'm a take your time.
Bree, Callie,
Literally.
please jump in. Get us away from each other.
Speaking of COVID, like that was one of those things. My whole department almost got furloughed during all of that. And that being unemployed for a few months paid for my wedding. It was fantastic. One of the best decisions my supervisor ever made for us because we were making more money unemployed than we were in the role. But I also think that led me to then get back into what are the things that fill your cup because I am not allowed to do work. So with that, like I got back into reading because I don't know about you all, college made me not actually have time or want to read for pleasure. Um, I was just having to read for class. So I went and got the county library card. I ordered a Kindle, got back into that. Being here, that's one of the things that helped bond my current assistant director and I was taking trips during the summer or during a really busy week, like carving out that time to go to the library together and just have that space to decompress. The quality time is still there for our friendship of it, but at the same time, it's us getting to do something for us individually, but together. Um, and then if it's not that, like it's the books are getting me out of my mental space and into somebody else's space. And that's the same reason why I love reality TV because it's other people getting to do all the things and they don't need anything from me. I just get to enjoy what they are doing for my entertainment.
Bree Gates.
I spend a lot of time integrating my life, like personal life and hobbies with my work life. Some of my best friends are people in Seho, and so I travel with people from Seho. Am texting people at 9 o'clock, people, people from Seho, and so and it's not, it's because we do understand each other. We have similar values and, time frames of when we can do things. I know that, with friends like that, I'm not going to be asking anybody to go somewhere in August. I don't have to worry about that with them. And so, my if we have an event at work after hours that I have to be at, guess who's coming with? That husband and that 4-year-old are regular appearances on campus. And so it's just it and that's a choice that I've made. I know that not everybody makes that choice. I know that some people are very hard compartmentalization of like, this is my work life, this is my personal life, and never the twain shall meet. But like for me, that's not how it works. That's, part of my identity is who I am at work. And who I am at work is exactly who I am at home. So if you don't like it at work, sorry about it. It just is what it is, but this is who I am. And so I think that's one of the things that's really important to me that we do. And Wes, I may take your job for a second. The next question is, how do you teach others to respect your time? And it goes back to just that. It's just with my 4-year-old. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it. And then when you have a question about it, I'm going to tell you, I told you what I was going to do. And so that's kind of how you set the boundary, you hold the line, and you remind them of the boundary. And also remind them of their resources. That full circle, all the way back to one of our first questions of remind them of their resources, remind them that they are capable human beings who can make decisions and know the answers to things. Um, and I will be here for moral support on the back end if you needed that the next day.
Bree, this is why I love you so much. I got to throw you up the heart. Um, offline, if you want to know about Breeze and I's last night in Miami at Rely, I would love to encourage you to seek
Man,
us out about it.
do you know why
Stephanie,
he's
stop.
bringing that up?
Do
Don't
not
do
ask that
that.
question. No one
Stop.
needs to know
This
that.
doesn't even have nothing to do with you,
It
Stephanie.
doesn't, Wesley Todd, because anytime he's
Okay.
around me, he wants to bring up the
Okay.
fact that,
We are at the 1 hour
okay.
mark, folks. So, but to that point, the very last question, I'll actually do another. I promise this. I'm doing my job as the host. Bree kind of touched on it, but I do want to give our other three panelists the opportunity just in a couple of sentences. And I kind of alluded to this other earlier, and Stephanie talked about creating culture. How do you teach others to respect your time? Um, Stephanie, how do you teach others to respect your time?
Yeah, honestly, I think Bree kind of really summed it up. Like, I'm gonna let you know what it is, so we're all on one accord, right? You can't say I didn't tell you or whatever the case may is. But here it is. Here's the boundary. Here's all the things that come with it. Again, here are your resources. Here are the people who can help you. If I'm not busy or whatever else, and I can, like, I'll jump in. But also, again, we go back to you're a capable staff person. There's probably not a lot of things you can do around here that will break the system. So, like, it's okay. Again, if you got a question, comment, there is a manual, there is a resource, there's a something that will probably walk you through the same thing I would. Because guess what I'm gonna do? Go to the same manual in the
Yep.
resource and flip through and be like, "You're right. We got to do this." Because again, we get out of. You may be on call on time, but maybe you don't have to respond to things, so you're just not fresh in your brain. But that's okay. But I want you to be able to work through whatever the problem is so I can live my life. You can go back to doing whatever it is you need to do. All of these things can happen together. But again, I want you to respect my time. I'll respect your time. I think of it the same way as folks in there. I don't want to mess with people's money, because you got folks you're living off of it. You got folks you're trying to do things with, like, so don't mess with my money. I won't mess with your money. Respect my time. I'll respect your time. All those things that come in there to me are important. And I want us to kind of live in this space where everybody's on one accord and we understand that. You know the resources, you use the resources, and we just have a good time. Like, truly, it is it is hard work that we do, and I want people to have a good time with the people they work with for however long they are in this space of time. All the things to me that is important about this work. I have been on the other end of the trauma of not answering the duty pager, say pager, because this was before those cell phones,
Oh,
and just
girl.
wondered if that was going to be my job because I didn't hear it. And I'm like, that psychological safety, like, I don't want my staff to have to live in that world where they fear, like, I'm missing this and that's my job. Like, I don't want that for anybody because that wasn't okay. And I lived through that. So I actually want this place and this work to be better for folks. So,
Well, thank you, and thank you for that little moment in history with the beeper as well.
the pager,
The
yes.
pager. Callie Taylor.
I would say it goes back to the mutual respect. It's not just respect for your time, it's respect for you as a person. If I can respect you as a person and respect your time 95% of the time, you're going to want to give that back to me.
Mhm.
And that's because we are meeting each other's human needs of acknowledgement. I like, for example, my supervisor knows that I'm not going to bother him when he's out moving his kid into college 7, 8 hours away. He also then is going to respect me and my time of not calling me this past weekend while we were moving into our new house. Or like working with us. One of my coworkers goes on paternity leave next week. I'll be on maternity leave later on in October. But like knowing that the world is still going to revolve and turn, you have to be able to plan ahead. You have to anticipate needs where you can, and then trust that the systems you have built will either hold, or the people who use those systems for you are going to figure it out. At the end of the day, as long as people are safe, as long as buildings are not literally burning down, we're doing our jobs, and we can only do the best that we can with what we have at the time, and hopefully trust that others are doing the same.
Put all that on a t-shirt, please, and thank you.
Exactly.
That'd be a
Uh,
lot on one shirt.
Small fonts.
The
Small
fine
font.
print,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
I love to tell my staff all our buildings have sprinklers.
Right.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
Might be
So,
messy, but it'll be
Taylor
okay.
Maroney, would you like to take us home with your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the only thing I really have to add is the reminder that boundaries are for you. they're not for others. Meaning, like, you can set the boundary of, like, hey, after 5 p.m., I'm not responding to text messages. That doesn't stop anybody from texting or calling you. So it's really up to you to decide, like, am I going to hold firm on this line, or am I going to teach others that it is okay, like 5:15, 5:30, like where is that really?
Mhm.
Um, so also remind yourself, like, while you are implementing boundaries or figuring out where your boundaries are, like, don't also get upset at others if they
Mhm.
may not follow them initially, because it's up to you, because it's for your own state of mind to protect yourself. That's really all I had. Y'all were great.
Well said, Taylor. Well, this has been a real treat for me. I've been looking forward to this all day. Again, I wish y'all could have been in the room when I invited Stephanie to be on the podcast. Giddy was how I would choose to describe it. I wish I had recorded
Very
it.
excited for this. Yes.
I know, I know. She had dropped not so subtle hints once, twice, 100 times. And she is my boss's boss, so I figure it is evaluation season. What
So
could
now
it
we got to
hurt?
buy that microphone, huh? Okay.
That you brought it up. So please support me, friends. I want to be the best professional and make Wake Forest the place that others aspire to be like. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
well,
Driven.
everybody listening, this has been great. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here today, especially those that came in the 11th hour. Checks in the mail. Now, maybe a check to Chester Cheeto, but it'll be a check nonetheless. So until next time, appreciate everybody and thank you for joining us at Seated Around the House. Bye, y'all.